Hello, friends. My name is Adrian. I'm ADHD, autistic, and have ADHD. Today, I want to talk about scripting. Now, usually, what people are referring to when it comes to autistic scripting is when someone repeats a word, a phrase, an entire script from like a TV show or a movie or something they've seen from somewhere else, and it doesn't always necessarily match the context of whatever is happening. It can be considered a form of echolalia. Autistic individuals may do this because it brings comfort and familiarity, and they also may do this in order to communicate something. And as always, when it comes to the autism spectrum, it can look different for different people. Some may do this more than others, some may have different reasons for doing this. For some, it may be one of the only ways that they communicate verbally. This might be quite the challenge for some people because it might happen seemingly at very socially inappropriate times. But now that I've got that description out of the way, what I really want to talk about is scripting in the way that I've heard some other autistic people talk about it. Scripting in the way where you are spending your time coming up with your own scripts to help you later in social interactions. I've seen it called autistic self scripting. So that's how I'm going to refer to it, self scripting. Though before I get into that, I want to say I have done quite a bit of the other type of scripting as well. I know many other high masking autistic people have done so too, as well as just people in general. I'm sure you've probably experienced people like religiously quoting Vine videos, TikToks, YouTube videos, commercials, etc. So I'll say that because people like to flip out about those kinds of things and say, "Oh, so you're saying everything is autism and if you do this you must be autistic?" No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying it's likely you'll find that autistic people are more likely to do this more often and beyond just repeating popular videos in the appropriate social context. I'm asking autistic people are more likely to blend this into socially appropriate situations than autistic people who don't really have the ability to mask, though. Back in school, I actually relied on this form of communication a lot. Like, looking back, it's kind of interesting. I probably did it the most in middle school, but also a lot in high school. And I can even remember doing this quite a bit in elementary school, too, now that I'm really thinking about it. And it's funny because what what came to mind when I was coming up with this video and thinking about elementary school is me and a couple kids in elementary school would quote the Kool-Aid Man a lot, "Oh yeah." We had a lot of fun doing that. But and it was really funny for me to remember that. I was like, "Oh yeah, we used to do that all the time. That's so funny." But I know for a fact I was scripting a lot in middle school. I didn't even talk a lot about it in middle school. Is I didn't really make actual friends in middle school. I had more like acquaintances here and there. So I think it was actually one of the only ways I was relating to other kids at that time. But anyway, I would repeat certain things so much that people actually signed my yearbook with certain things that I would say all the time. Like one of those things was magic bananas. And at this point, I don't even remember what that's from, but I know that I used to say it a lot. And that was just straight up a vocal stim because there's really not a lot of context where that makes sense to say. I just said it all the time. And another one I did a lot was reciting the entirety of the Potter Puppet Pals video, the mysterious ticking noise. Please tell me if you know in the comments about that video, if you've seen that video before. You know, the one where Puppet Snape comes in and he's like, what is that mysterious ticking noise? Not over here, not over there. Kind of catchy. It goes Snape, Snape, Severus Snape, 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 Severus Snape, and then Dumbledore comes in. Dumbledore, Snape, Severus Snape, Dumbledore, and they all keep joining. Ron's like, Ron, Ron, Ron Weasley, Ron, Ron, Ron Weasley, Hermione, 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 Hermione. Harry Potter, Harry Potter, ooh, Harry Potter, Harry Potter, yeah, Harry Potter, Harry Potter, ooh, Harry Potter, Harry Potter, that's me. And then everyone else stops and it's just Snape and Harry. Snape, Harry, Snape, Harry, Snape, Harry, Snape, Harry, Snape, Harry, Snape, Harry. And then Dumbledore comes back in suddenly shirtless. Dumbledore, Hermione, Harry Potter, I'm Harry Potter, I'm Harry Potter, Harry Potter. And then they all come in singing our song all day long at Hogwarts. And Ron is like, I found the source of the mysterious ticking. It's a pipe bomb. And then for some reason, Harry and Ron are like, yay! And then they all explode. And then Voldemort comes in and he's like, Wahahaha. He's like, Voldemort, Voldemort, ooh, Voldemort. You know that video? Couldn't resist. Okay, that would be gone because I said I wasn't even going to talk a lot about that kind of stuff, but just a lot was coming to mind. And, honestly, I was huge on TV shows and movies and YouTube and stuff, clearly. But, like I said, what I actually want to talk about is the kind of scripting you do when you are constantly planning out potential conversations in your head. I still, to this day, find myself doing this a lot, even though I'm in my era of unmasking. These days, I think I catch myself doing this a lot, like trying to script conversations with my therapist, because I feel like I have to be honest. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my money because when I don't think about it beforehand, I just go in there and I don't talk about anything. Though I kind of still do that, to be honest, because it's like I'll script conversations in my head, but then I'm like, I can't say any of this. I can't say any of this. I can't do it. And I just don't know how to bring certain things up. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that. And it's like this is literally what therapy is for. This is what you're supposed to just like talk about things. But I will spend hours laying in bed trying to script a conversation. And then here's the thing about ADHD. I get distracted and go on like a million tangents in my head. But then I think that's also autism really because it's like I just feel like I need to describe every little tiny detail so that I feel like I can guarantee that I'll be understood even though like that's that's insane. And of course this is where anxiety kicks into and it really makes it an obsessive habit and it's probably like also PTSD from like every past failed social interaction. And so it's like with every time in my formative years that I perceived a social interaction to have gone badly on my part, I just strengthened and reinforced this need to obsessively script conversations in my head. And so this is things as simple as ordering food at a restaurant to, like I said, trying to script an entire session with my therapist. I do this with everyone, even just trying to start conversations with my family and closest friends. And I mean, I do this less often with friends now because, like I said, I am in my unmasking era as best I can be anyway. It's actually way harder than most people may realize to unmask after spending almost your entire life doing it excessively. Though, like I've said before, my biggest form of masking has always been and still is avoidance. So actually, I don't know how well I'm doing with that because I've almost become more and more avoidant the older that I've gotten. But then again, let me still give myself credit because I get online and I share a lot of my authentic self, like an uncomfortable level of authenticity, though of course it's gotten easier. So if you're wondering, it definitely does get easier the more you do something. I don't think twice about most of the TikToks I post now. Every once in a while I get nervous about how I'll be perceived, but most of the time now I'm fine. In the beginning, there's a lot more anxiety about every post. Another thing I script a lot is when I have to make those Instacart deliveries to places where the neighborhood has a gate where I have to talk to an actual guard. Like just the other day, it actually threw me off, and I felt so bad for a second. But that's another thing that I've stopped doing as much is beating myself up after social interaction because that used to be really bad where I would replay situations in my head over and over again, trying to figure out how I could have done better and being upset with myself for not doing it better. Anyway, the guard asked me how I was, but I completely ignored that question because it didn't even really register in my mind until it was too late because usually they don't really ask that. They just say hello and ask where I'm headed. So I just immediately started saying the address I was going to. And then so afterwards, I was like, damn, I hope she didn't think that I was rude. And it was my favorite guard too there. I was too focused on my script. Hi, I'm delivering an Instacart order to some. Some days I don't even do those orders. I always try to peep the location before I accept an Instacart order to see if it's to one of those neighborhoods because I just don't want to do it sometimes. Sometimes I just don't want to talk to people. And I rarely do the ones where I have to deliver alcohol because I'm like there's no, that's just way too much social interaction, way more than I'm trying to do right now because I'm gonna have to show my ID to the cashier, then I'm gonna have to deliver it, and I'm gonna have to talk to the customer and scan their ID. And it's always so awkward, especially when they don't even remember that they have to scan their ID when I deliver. So they look confused when I'm waiting at the door and I'm like, I need to scan an ID for this order. And that happens a lot when it's actually like because it's medicine and not alcohol, because people aren't really thinking about that. But I'm like, because they're like, I didn't order any alcoholic beverages, but it's like, yeah, but you bought cough medicine, so I still have to scan an ID. But people even forget when they know damn well that they did buy alcohol. And one time it was so awkward because I delivered alcohol to like an older man one time. And I mean, he's like questioning it because obviously he's like, well, look at me. I'm old. Obviously, I'm old enough. And it's like, well, yeah, but if I don't scan your ID, I'll be in trouble. And I can't move on in the Instacart app if I don't put in your information. Like, come on, sir. Like, I understand, but there's a system here that I have to follow. But when I started scripting out this video, and yes, I know the irony of that statement of talking about scripting, and I scripted this video. I script most of my YouTube videos. And even when I don't physically type it out or write it, I still like partially script it in my head most of the time. But anyway, when I first started planning out this video, because like I did some of this and then I went a couple days and then came back to it. But like, started planning out this video and then like a couple days later I found myself because I was thinking like I don't really do this so much anymore. But then I feel like because I was thinking about this, I was able to be more aware of when I was actually doing this. And like I just caught myself going on for like the longest time in my head. And I was like, "Oh, I was just going to get on here and say how like I don't do this obsessively anymore." And yet here I was like spending a lot of time scripting an imaginary conversation. I don't even remember now exactly what that is, but I think it had something to do with like I'm like, okay, when I actually do interact with real life friends again, because I haven't really done that anymore, it's like, what am I gonna say? What are we even gonna do? I'm gonna need ideas on deck here. So I think that's what I think that's where I found myself doing it recently. And then of course I have all my like truly fantastical scripts where I imagine how I will answer interview questions when I'm on TV and podcasts and all that, which honestly is probably just a good thing because it's helping me manifest all the great things I'm accomplishing in order to end up on these interviews. But anyway, in conclusion, I'd say self-scripting is very helpful, but also at the same time it can be very stressful and obsessive in a lot of cases. It would be nice to just be able to be natural and be able to communicate with ease. And I mean, it's not impossible, but I feel like that's only with the right people where you don't really have so many expectations placed on you. And also because maybe you just have a lot in common with someone. So it's easy to talk to them because you just talk about things that you like. But when it comes to interacting with the general public, if I just never thought about the ways that I would respond to people, I would just end up hardly saying anything at all to people. And we all know people think you're rude when you don't respond to them. So it does take a lot of energy to do this sometimes. I'd say it was definitely just depleting most of the time when I was younger and in school. It would keep me up at night. It was often a mix of ruminating on all my past mistakes and then me trying to rewrite what I should have said instead, and then continuing to anticipate all future scenarios. So it was a lot for sure. I think I've definitely shifted away from doing it in such a painful way now, and I stopped myself when I realized it's becoming more stressful than helpful. So, yeah, that's the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you can relate in any way in the comments. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video. It means a lot to me. If you want to show more support, check out the links in my description. I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next video.